Hello and welcome to NewsX World. I'm Pia and you're watching the World Report. With that, let's take a look at the headlines. A Ukrainian drone attack has hit a tanker and oil terminal in Russia's Black Sea port of Tuapse overnight, setting fire to infrastructure. Authorities have warned that the strike could disrupt crude and refined products exports. US President Donald Trump has hailed his meeting with China's President Xi Jinping in Busan as a major success. He has emphasized that it will bring everlasting peace along with key trade and tariff agreements. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is visiting Hanoi to meet Vietnam's top leaders, with talks focusing on potential US arms supplies, including C-130 Hercules transport aircrafts and military helicopters. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has sought Chinese President Xi Jinping's support to restart talks with North Korea. This comes amid Xi's visit to Yeongju after 11 years, pledging to deepen cooperation and jointly address regional challenges. According to the US envoy to Syria, Tom Barak, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara will visit Washington around the 10th of November, marking the first official visit by a Syrian head of state to the United States. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has announced a lethal strike on a narco-trafficking vessel in the Caribbean, killing 3 terrorists. He has stated that the operation, directed by President Trump, targets drug smugglers threatening US shores. US President Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to plan potential military action in Nigeria, citing persecution of Christians. He has warned that he will halt all US aid to the country, adding that a fast, vicious strike could follow if the killings continue. A mass stabbing on a London-bound train in Cambridgeshire has left 9 with life-threatening injuries and 10 hospitalised. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called the attack appalling and has urged the public to follow the advice of the police. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. A Ukrainian drone attack has damaged and set ablaze a tanker and related infrastructure at a major oil terminal in Russia's key Black Sea port of Tuapse overnight. Now, the port is home to the Black Sea oil terminal and a Rosneft-controlled oil refinery, which Ukraine has targeted with several drone strikes this year. Kiev has stepped up its strikes on Russian refineries, depots and pipelines in recent months in order to strain fuel supplies, disrupt military logistics and raise wartime costs, a campaign that it calls retaliation for Russian attacks on its own power grid. Now, according to the regional administration, falling drone debris also damaged an apartment building in the village of Sosnovi, just outside Tuapse. Now, no injuries were reported, although the railway station has suffered some minor damage. With us on the broadcast is Professor Veselin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean at Jindal Global Law School. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. A very crucial strike has taken place in Tuapse. How does this reflect Ukraine's broader military strategy in order to target Russia's oil refineries? We've seen several strikes take place earlier as well at Rosneft refineries. This is, of course, being done in retaliation to Russia striking Ukrainian power grids.
Obviously, this follows what Ukraine was doing over the last months. No surprise, Ukraine will continue with those strikes. It is a clear military object. The reduction of Russian capacity to sell oil and gas globally is important for Ukraine and for the peace for that matter. So obviously, more such strikes like the one in Tuapse yesterday we will see in the near future. In fact, I heard that 30% of the Russian capacity to export oil and gas has been already damaged. And that, again, speaks volume about how serious Ukraine is to defend its territory by reducing the capacity of Russia to obtain more funding for their weapons, for their aggressive wars. Ukraine is in full justification to continue doing those strikes. And they are precise. They are only targeting oil refineries, energy infrastructure, I wouldn't say it's retaliation. It's part of the strategy of Ukraine to push Russia into negotiations and to achieve some ceasefire at least, if not a full peace deal.
Indeed, and now with winter approaching, we're seeing the energy arena becoming a key sort of focus of the battle between Russia and Ukraine. How does Ukraine now look at defending its own energy priorities as Russia is also stepping up its attacks, especially on power grids?
Yes, Ukraine needs more support there, definitely. You're absolutely right that the capacity of Ukraine to defend its energy infrastructure is also crucial. And there has been a lot of support from the European countries, including from other countries like Canada, Australia, Japan, South Korea, United States, obviously, in terms of intelligence mostly. Ukraine needs extra support, and all its partners globally realize that, so that, as you said, winter is approaching, and to protect the infrastructure, energy infrastructure in Ukraine is crucial. Russia is the aggressor, so we cannot really compare the two because Ukraine needs to survive. It defends its country. It needs to protect its energy infrastructure. Whereas the Russians, the aggressors, cannot complain, for example, that some of their energy infrastructure is hit in response. This is a responsive war. It's not a chess game where the two sides are equal. They are not equal. Russia is the aggressor, Ukraine is the victims, and for that matter, all support should go to Ukraine, and all blame and sanctions should go to Russia.
All right, so I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking some other crucial updates as far as this war is concerned. We're now learning that a Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, has stated that the European Union is complicit in international terrorism as it continues to sponsor Kiev. Zakharova has emphasized that the European Commission may postpone its decision on expropriating Russia's assets as an interim decision to approve a 6-month loan to Kiev, which is being considered due to objections from Belgium and several other EU countries as well. She stated that Kiev is committing terrorist acts as both against civilians in territories it considers its own and against citizens of the Russian Federation, whom it does not consider as its own but knows fully well are civilians. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Veselin Popovsky. So what do you make of this rhetoric from Russia?
Well, again, another absolutely inadequate, absolutely silly statement. It has nothing, it doesn't deserve to be reported what Zakharova said, although she is officially the speaker of the Foreign Ministry of the Russian Federation. But the blame that Ukraine somehow is a terrorist state is absolutely inadequate and false. Obviously, as I said, Ukraine is defending its territory, and Russia has nothing more to do rather than to make those blames and those claims. They're absolutely falsified. Complaining and crying and shouting is the only option left for the Foreign Ministry of Russia, which has been so much discredited over the last 4 years, with its constant lies, falsifications. So nobody pay attention in the world to what Zakharova say anymore. This is simple propaganda, and again, I cannot say more. This is difficult to comment on something so blatantly false and inadequate.
Indeed, she's also referred to the EU's decision in order to use frozen Russian assets in order to supply Kiev with aid. A lot of experts are touting it as a long-term plan. Initially, this is something that has been in the works for the last 2-3 years itself, but we've seen several roadblocks in the form of Hungary. In fact, not agreeing to this particular plan. Do you think this will go ahead, and would this really address Ukraine's needs in the short term?
Yes, I think it will go ahead. Well, we know Hungary, and it's it's President Orban, who is a pro-Russian, pro-Putin, corrupted leader. He receives money from Moscow, and that's why he's doing that. And that's the only country, in fact, in Europe that is the obstacle for more common actions, but the European Union already found a formula to avoid the Hungarian voice, the Hungarian veto on that, and that will go ahead with the frozen assets. This should be given to Ukraine to rebuild its broken economy. Who else, if not the criminal, should pay for the crime, for the victims? Absolutely. It's that in all the history of criminal law, let's put it this way, it's always every judgment, every sentence is that the criminal, the person who committed the crime should pay the cost of the crime. Russia should pay the cost of the destruction of Ukraine. Absolutely no doubt about that. One day, when a peace will be achieved, it will be written in the proper treaty, like in every other big wars in the past. Reparations should be paid, like Germany did after the First World War. After the Second War, we had a Marshall Plan, which also included the obligations of Germany. Russia will pay every single damage it did in Ukraine. So simple. And those frozen assets obviously will deduct that big amount that will be necessary for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Absolutely.
And speaking of Europe at large, particularly NATO, even though they have launched Operation Eastern Sentry, the response on the front lines, the Eastern Front at least, has been very measured, it's been very calibrated. They're not looking at directly escalating anything with Russia on that front. But could we see NATO perhaps applying some sort of pressure in the Baltic area?
Yes. Baltic states are members of NATO. Here, Article 4, Article 5 of the NATO treaty fully applied. So any provocation by Russia against the Baltic states will be responded with the full force of the NATO military, including armies, absolutely no doubt. The problem with Ukraine is that Ukraine was not accepted into NATO for the last 15 years. And that's, again, it's very funny to think about Russia accusing NATO of being the provocateur of this war. It's exactly the opposite. Ukraine was not accepted into NATO for 15 years. And if it was accepted in NATO, there wouldn't be war at all. So it's the opposite. NATO refused to accept Ukraine. But the Baltic states are members of NATO. They are protected under the treaty. And they will be protected in practice if Russia dares to do any provocation against the three Baltic states.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time sharing your perspective and analysis with us on NewsX World today. With that, viewers, we're shifting our focus away from Europe towards what's taking place in the Caribbean. We're now learning that U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has announced that the U.S. Department of War has carried out a lethal strike on a narco-trafficking vessel in the Caribbean Sea. Hegseth has stated that the operation was directed by President Donald Trump and targets a designated terrorist organization involved in smuggling narcotics to U.S. shores. According to Hegseth, 3 male narco-terrorists were aboard the vessel during the strike, which took place in international waters. No U.S. officials were harmed during this strike as well. Hegseth has emphasized that the department treats these traffickers the same way it treated Al-Qaeda, vowing to track, map, hunt and eliminate threats that endanger Americans. Let's in fact put up that aerial video showcasing the strike itself on the vessel. Yes, right here you can see this is the video that has been released by the U.S. Department of War. You can see the vessel going up in flames. Clear damage is visible as well. U.S. officials say that this operation is part of ongoing efforts to prevent illegal drugs from reaching U.S. territory and to dismantle organized criminal networks operating in the Caribbean. Still with us, all right, there seems to be a technical glitch as far as our guest connection is concerned. We'll get to that very shortly and try to resolve that. In the meantime, you can clearly see these visuals. There's a fresh strike by the United States in the Caribbean. It's taken place in international waters. 3 smugglers have been killed. The U.S. claims that there were 3 narco-terrorists who were aboard this particular vessel. You can see it going up in flames. And this particular visual has been released by the U.S. Department of War. There were in fact strikes that had taken place recently against 4 vessels in Eastern Pacific as well, about 5 days ago, in which 14 alleged drug traffickers were also killed in these series of strikes. Of course, the United States is upping the ante in the Caribbean with its deployment of its warships and its F-35 jets as well. We've seen nations such as Venezuela and Colombia come out and criticize the move by the United States of America in order to carry out these strikes. This fresh strike has taken place against alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean Sea. Hexit has stated that the vessel was operated by a designated terrorist organization and was transiting along a known narco-trafficking route. He did not name which terrorist organization is part of the boat, but he's of course stated that the Department of War will treat these traffickers the same way it has treated Al-Qaeda. With us on the broadcast is Major General Sudhakarji. He is a senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Now, according to a UN report, a majority of the drug trading that takes place, trafficking that takes place, to be very specific, occurs through land, through United States border with Mexico, and via sea it is through the Pacific and not the Caribbean or the Atlantic. So I want to understand from you, what is the United States' large game plan over here?
Pia, good morning. Thank you for getting me for your show. Good question you have raised. We are discussing the issue in 21st century. In 20th century, Cold War 1.0, we had a bipolarity or 2 superpowers. Now we have only one established superpower. There are many global powers who are showing their head, like Russia, China, and India may be a credible leader in times ahead. Likewise. So in a situation like this, in 21st century, the sphere of influence of USA in its backyard always was in favor of USA. I'm talking about the Latin America. Entire Latin America used to be in the sphere of influence of USA in Cold War 1.0 till as late as 2010. But post 2010, or rather I would say 2013, ever since Xi has come to power in China, you see, firstly, China has posted a remarkable bounce back in the economic milestone. It has had 30 to 40 years of consistent growth of double to a very respectable single digit rate of growth. And that has put the country in a high pedestal in the world order today. Its technology, military might, everything has actually gone up. And in some of the issues, it has left USA behind. Plus, it has also had extended outreach to countries like Latin America through the process of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. Venezuela, Colombia, all these countries, Guyana, Chile, Argentina, maybe an exception to some extent Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, all of them are under Chinese influence because China has invested huge amount of money and still continues to invest in the infrastructure development and also giving soft loan to some of the projects. So under these circumstances, America has actually lost its dependable backyard, which is to respond to its requirement in a favorable manner in the past, that is in 20th century. So therefore, to regain that space where China has come in, it is trying to make deep inroads gradually, incrementally, to push back China from the inroads that it has made in Latin America or in the back. That is the big plan which USA is looking at. Back to you, please.
Indeed, and speaking about Venezuela in particular, there are a lot of analysts who are coming out and critics of the US administration who are coming out and stating that, the ostensible reason that United States is providing in order to up the ante in the Caribbean is the crackdown on narco-terrorists, but the real reason is the oil reserves that Venezuela holds. Is there any verity to this analysis?
You see, but there is no denying the fact because USA is looking for, besides restoring its status quo, its status as a global power or as a superpower, it is looking to enhance and strengthen its economy. Economy can be enhanced from four to five primary sources. One of the primary sources is actually oil, fossil fuel. The second one is market for defense industry. It has got a huge defense industry. 6 out of 10, they're the best ones who are in American industry. And after the defense industry, you see, oil in the global market is around 2.6 trillion US dollar. Defense industry is around 2.1 trillion dollar. Next is the narcotics. Narcotics is around 1.66 trillion dollar global economy. And next is your pharmaceutical is around 1.2 trillion. And last but not the least is the rare earth element. Rare earth element, it can be counted as of now close to almost about 47 to 57 trillion dollar. So wherever it is going, the CIA has got a role cut out for it to enhance or make the economy of USA so good, so healthy that they contribute towards making America great again. This is the hidden agenda. So Venezuela is no exception. The only thing is that the oil, which is so evidently available, once upon a time, Chevron used to
Yes.
actually, the USA company, they used to operate there. But now, because the regime has undergone change, they have shifted the base. They are operating through state-owned company. China has made very deep inroads into the oil industry of Venezuela. It is investing lots of money for buying of crude oil as also the processing and the refinement. So oil is the primary source. Second is that fentanyl, that drug that we are talking of. It is being produced by China. It is marketed in Mexico and the Latin America, particularly Colombia and Venezuela as well. That is infiltrating into the USA market. In 2022, 111,000 US citizens had died, and about 2 lakh, close to 2 lakh people, they were actually in the detoxification camps. And in 2024, 48 recorded. Officially, 48,000 people have died in USA. So this is actually causing a huge dangerous movement inside the USA. It is depleting the human resource capability of USA as also eating into the healthy status of the citizens of USA. Back to you, Pia.
Indeed, sir. And what's interesting also as in this particular development is that Secretary Hegseth has compared these narco-terrorists to Al-Qaeda. Up until now, we've learned that US forces have killed about 61 people in its operations. We're also seeing considerable opposition from Latin American states, whether it is Venezuela. Of course, the Maduro regime is not recognized by Washington. Recently, we've also seen Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum confirming that she will not attend the Summit of Americas, which is scheduled on the 4th of December over the exclusion of Venezuela and Cuba. There's recently also been several strong statements coming out from Colombia and its President Gustavo Petro, which has resulted in Trump announcing that he will slash aid to Colombia and also enact tariffs on its exports. So what do you make of this reaction by Latin American nations? And on the other hand, we're also seeing Trinidad and Tobago host a US warship and reaffirm that it will stand by US's side. It's of course just a stone's throw away from Venezuela.
Absolutely. Good points made by you in your narrative that you have shared. Firstly, the complete Latin America has gone against the USA. They are absolutely on the lap of China because in today's time, in 21st century, nobody likes to be shouted, nobody likes to be bulldozed, and people are looking out for diplomacy and dialogue and dignified, honorable engagements. Not to be, treated as pushover, not like toilet papers, not like laundromats. Nobody likes it. So as a result, you see, by and by, in past 40 to 50 odd years, if I take the mind back of our right since Deng Xiaoping, China had started looking around for the rare earth element in Latin America, as also oil and the renewable energy sources. So they had started investing money when the world was not even aware that there were things like this which will be required by the turn of the century. So having made these kind of deep inroads, they are in a favorable kind of a situation to win the hearts and minds of the people of entire Latin America. Under these circumstances, USA is adopting a very aggressive stance and approach to get these people back or the countries back to its realm, which is highly dangerous and counterproductive. Therefore, I recommend that the US may have to engage with them more meaningfully, substantively, in more honorable and polite manner rather than pushing their way through. One. Number two, that the forces which have actually started stage managing one aircraft carrier, almost 8 or 9 frigates, and lots of missiles are laid out, surveillance platforms, and the satellites are already, covering the swath of Venezuela, Colombia, all these countries. So under these circumstances, in my opinion, I personally feel America is trying to use them as a stick for better and effective negotiation. The negotiation is actually they're looking at a changing of a regime in Venezuela. Maduro needs to be changed, which is not an easy game these days. He's just back, Donald Trump is just back from China. And I'm sure, going by the reportage which is coming in past 48 hours, Z would have certainly indicated, please lay off, don't unnecessarily harass or kill people in a meaningless and unsubstantiated manner without any evidence. 61, till yesterday, 15 boats had been neutralized or destroyed. I think the 16th one you reported today, 61 people have died, not a shred of evidence. Why isn't anybody in the world asking USA, show us the evidence as to why and how, from where are they collecting and what are they taking, fentanyl or something else, or they're carrying out normal patrolling in the deep sea. So somebody should ask and hold USA accountable for carrying out meaningless killing of innocent people, which is very, very alarming. In 21st century, they're the ones, USA is the country which is supposed to be rolling out the meaning and interpretation and implementation of rules-based international order. On the contrary, without any shred of evidence shown to the United Nations or the apex organization responsible for the same, I don't feel that they're doing the right thing, killing people just in the name of drugs, cartage, and the fentanyl infiltration into the American market. Back to you, Priya.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking more updates coming in. US President Donald Trump has stated that he had asked the Defense Department to prepare for possible military action in Nigeria if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians. According to Trump, the US government will also immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and has stated that if the US sends in military forces, it would go in guns blazing to completely wipe out Islamic terrorists who are committing horrible atrocities. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has also noted that the Department of War is preparing for action in Nigeria if the Nigerian government fails to protect Christians amid reports of violence in the country. Meanwhile, in response to Trump's warning, the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has posted a statement pushing back against claims of religious intolerance and has defended his country's efforts to protect religious freedom. Nigeria, which we know has 200 ethnic groups practicing Christianity, Islam and traditional religions, has had a long history of peaceful coexistence, but it has also seen flare-ups of violence among groups which are often exacerbated by ethnic divisions or conflict over scarce resources. The extremist Islamist armed group Boko Haram has also terrorized northeastern Nigeria in an insurgency that has killed tens of thousands of people over the past 15 years. Although human rights experts have stated that most of their victims have been Muslims. Still with us on the broadcast is Major General Sudhakarji. Nigeria is quite a complicated situation. We remember during Trump's first administration, his first term, he had designated Nigeria as a country of concern. This was undone by the Joe Biden regime in 2021, and now again Trump has come out and posted this statement on his Truth Social platform. We're also knowing at the same time that the US House of Representatives Appropriations Committee's 2026 Fiscal National Security Appropriations Bill has included increased funding for International Religious Freedom Program and support for programs supporting communities in Nigeria targeted by extremist violence. In your assessment, how could then US's direct involvement sort of impact this conflict that has been taking place?
Yeah, firstly, good. I'm glad that the channel is picking up most important and relevant international news because now Nigeria has to be commented based on the situation developing or unfolding in Sahel region. Now, what is Sahel region? Sahel region is a corridor which includes 10 countries. It cuts across, from North Central Africa, stretching from Atlantic to the Red Sea. And the geographical definition can vary, and it includes countries like Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan. Other countries are Nigeria and Eritrea, and parts of Algeria, also part of this Sahel region. Now, why am I highlighting this? I'm highlighting this, take the mind of our viewers back to 2017. In 2017, we claimed internationally that the backbone of ISIS, the caliphate of which was extending across Syria and Iraq over a distance of 262 kilometers, if I respect my memory, the complete backbone of ISIS had been actually decimated or broken. Now, consequent to that, while on one hand the world was celebrating, and America for one was feeling very proud that such a successful mission has been achieved, and they were rolling back gradually because it was not very far off from 2021 when they finally withdrew from Afghanistan.
Yes.
So after 2017, what happened? The ISIS backbone had been broken as far as we are concerned, the world was concerned, but they instead had broken up into small splinter groups.
Yes.
So what happened to the splinter groups? One splinter group went to Northwest Africa and gradually started spreading towards this corridor that I'm talking of, Sahel region. You have Al-Qaeda also, ISIS also. And one group actually went to the Mediterranean, it is called a Levante region. Okay. Mediterranean, Syria, you have Israel, Jordan, these kind of countries. Now, another one came to the Central Asian Republic, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and cutting across South Asia, called ISIS Khorasan.
Yes.
It goes right up. This caliphate ISIS Khorasan runs right up to New Zealand. Now, what happened? Why am I bringing out about Sahel region? Sahel region, unfortunately, has been actually subjected to lots of civilian atrocities and killing of civilians because of the rising terrorism, particularly the ISIS Khorasan. Al-Qaeda is also there, the ISIS Khorasan, under different names they are operating. Nigeria per se, one has to understand the total population, majority I would say, are Muslims. And majority means around 53.8, 54.6% are Muslims, and around 48 odd percent are Christians. So if this be the kind of classification, and the Christians are being targeted because of the offensive which had been unleashed against ISIS Khorasan way back in 2017, they still consider America as the sworn enemy and the Western Alliance as the sworn enemy, and Christians being predominated kind of a religion amongst the Americans, they are targeting the Christians. Therefore, the America is coming in a big way and trying to address the threat and also bring in some kind of a peace. Second issue is Nigeria is very rich in minerals and oil.
Yes.
In the previous question I had highlighted, wherever there is disturbance, there is tumult or turbulence, America and the CIA is trying to look for where the America can do business, can buy oil, or connect the petrodollar issue, revive the value. Dominance of dollar once upon a time in 70s used to be 89%. It came down to 54% during pandemic. Economic experts say if the dollar goes down, if the value of dollar goes down to less than 50%, then you can take that as the turning point of a superpower, and the superpower cannot ever bounce back to its status of supremacy and authority. So that is the kind of challenge which America is facing. It is looking out for different avenues and those sources from where it can actually make money and have agreement. It is rich in, Nigeria is actually rich in minerals, and lots of critical technologies are also, minerals are available, and so as the fossil fuel. That is another hidden agenda. And third and most important point that you got to keep in mind is Nigeria is the largest developing country in Africa. In times ahead, it may become something like one of the biggest economies in the world. In times ahead, I'm talking about 2050, 75, the rate of growth and the economic GDP is actually growing comparatively in the entire African Union. This is the country which is to be looked at with very care and calibration, because the world order would do well if they invest time, energy, and focus on such like countries to bring in peace and harmony, thereby, trying to encourage some kind of a rules-based order, democratic form of government. Back to you, please.
Indeed, so I would love to discuss more, but we are running short of time. I'd like to add, in fact, to what Major General Sudhakarji has pointed out. He's, of course, spoken about the Sahel region. Now, the U.S. military footprint in West Africa was significantly diminished when about 1,000 troops withdrew from Niger last year. The US sometimes has had small groups of troops in the region to take part in drills. Of course, we do know they do have a large presence in East Africa in Djibouti, which hosts over 5,000 troops. But meanwhile, on the domestic front, in Nigeria itself, political stability has been a key part of concern. Especially with regards to murmurs of a coup, a nearly successful coup taking place, due to which we'd seen a change in the military leadership taking place just 2 days before. There was a new chief of defense staff sworn in, a new Navy, Army and Air Force chiefs were also sworn in. The larger question, of course, is could a military approach by the United States risk escalating violence or destabilizing the region further? With that, I'd like to thank you, Major General Sudhakarji, for joining us on the broadcast. We are running short of time, but one important update coming in from the United Kingdom. We're now learning that emergency services rushed to Huntingdon Station on Saturday night after a horrific stabbing had taken place on a train in eastern England. Police say that 9 people suffered life-threatening injuries after attacks aboard the 6:25 p.m. service from Doncaster to London's King's Cross. The train was stopped at Huntingdon, where armed officers boarded and arrested 2 men. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the incident deeply concerning, urging people to follow police advice, while Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood stated that her thoughts were with the victims and she's warned against any sort of speculation. A British Transport Police has confirmed counter-terrorism officers are assisting as investigations continue into the motive behind this mass stabbing. Forensic teams and sniffer dogs remain at the scene as shocked commuters have described chaotic scenes and blood-stained passengers fleeing the train. Listen in to what some of the eyewitnesses have had to say.
I've been on the scene since just after 9 p.m. When I arrived, there was a really significant emergency services presence. The emergency services you can see behind me, much reduced from what it was when I first got here an hour and a half ago. There must have been 10 ambulances, a number of fire engines, and well over 20 police cars, including armed police. My understanding so far, and I've not been briefed officially by the emergency services, but my understanding is that the attack took place on the train. It's a LNER train from Newcastle to King's Cross. The attack took place just after Peterborough Station, and there were multiple stabbings. The train stopped at Huntingdon, and armed police were able to deal with the situation then.
Had some screaming and shouting coming from at least a carriage or 2 down, and then I made eye contact with another passenger diagonal to me, and it was clear that something was going on. We didn't quite know what. And then a minute or so later, a man comes running down with a very clear wound, bleeding quite badly on his arm. And I thought it was like some sort of Halloween prank at first. But then he's shouting that someone's got a knife, he was stabbed. And then a few more people come running down the train. And then I grabbed my bag and my coat, and then I got up and moved forward down the train after them, trying to get as far down the train as they can. And that was kind of initially when I was like, oh, okay, something's happened.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone. And then I had guys suddenly run past going, run, run. There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. At first, there was a few of us kind of looking at each other like thinking, was it a joke, like it's Halloween, I'd be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. So I kind of got my stuff and I was running, and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point, I was kind of asking questions like, what's going on? What's happening? Like, who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there. And then I put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And then I look ahead and there's blood all on the chairs. And I'm thinking, okay, this is...
Well, viewers, due to paucity of time, this is all we have for this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.